So when I heard about the new updates to the app, and I was taught how to use them, um, I after coming home from my mission, I really wanted to embrace that and kind of figure out ways that I can still do missionary work, because I didn't know it would be this uncomfortable to do missionary work as a member, instead of as a full-time missionary. And I took that for granted my whole mission. I didn't understand that it was so hard. But now, as I've come home, one of the ways that I've tried to incorporate missionary work into my daily life has been focusing on family history work and sharing that with my family members and coworkers, and then spreading my experiences around to those that are close by. And I've had a lot of really cool experiences where I pull up someone else's grandparents, and we can look at all of the information there on family history work and find ways that they can connect with that person through pictures or stories or videos or things that have existed on family history. And you can tell that there really is kind of that deep connection. Some of the people that I talk to are less active, and some are just not members. And regardless of who it is, they're always impacted by those experiences. And it kind of develops a good relationship between me and them. Some of the experiences I had on my mission was we were allotted 2 hours to do family history work to kind of familiarize ourselves with the process of family history. And as clockwork, we would go normally on Tuesdays, and we would spend 2 hours doing family history work in the morning. And we would always find discussions with the people sitting next to us at the library computers, or we would have opportunities to share that with other people. I found a story of one of my ancestors who was bickering with her husband. This is like my third great grandmother, and she was from the South, which is where I served my mission. And in the South, there's kind of this weird story, and it's a fact, I guess, that Black Panthers, they actually live in Alabama, and they're really sparse, but they live there. And people always talk about seeing a Black Panther or focusing on them and kind of the myths or legends behind them. And my second great grandmother was bickering with her husband, and they're having an argument, and they just were in a really unhealthy relationship at the time. And she remembers that one day they went to bed, and they had one of the antebellum style homes with the through gates, not gates, hallways, where you had one door here, and then the whole house revolved around that hallway to kind of let air in through to circulate the house. And she said that she was laying in bed awake with her husband next to her, and the door opened, kind of swung wide. It was one of the swinging doors, and she heard footprints, loud thuds of footprints, and she remembered just kind of being really uncomfortable, and really eerie feeling fell on her, and she didn't know what was going on. And she looked, and in the doorway there was a Black Panther, and it jumped up on her bed, and she just held her breath, and it laid down on her chest, and it laid there for a few minutes. And she was so overpowered by the weight on her from the Black Panther that it she couldn't reach out to her husband. And once it left, then it left out the door again, and from that day on, she expressed that she was so grateful for her husband that she'd been overcritical for. And so there were a couple opportunities where I shared that experience that I learned in family history with people when they would talk about Black Panthers, or they would talk about just kind of the wildlife in the area. And it would always be kind of a fun story that I could share, and then share the connection that I learned about that through family history. One of my sisters, she's not attending church at all, and she doesn't have the best feelings towards some of the beliefs or doctrines. I'm not completely sure, but she was introduced to FamilySearch.org through a coworker, and her coworker just set her up with an account, and she normally would take every opportunity to stay away from that kind of thing, but she, for the reason of the Spirit, she set up an account, got working in it, and as soon as she noticed that there weren't pictures on a couple of our ancestors, she was filled with fury or rage. She was really frustrated that they didn't have that personality that those accounts should have. And so she started looking with my grandmother and my mother and finding ways that she can attach those pictures and connect their personalities to their family search accounts. And I was allowed to do the family history 2 hours every week, so there were my sources that I would attach, and I would find pictures utilizing Ancestry and connecting all the accounts and things like that. And she noticed that I had been on, and she was kind of confused, and she asked my mom, she said, is Burke allowed to do family history work? And my mom said, yeah, he is, 2 hours every week. And so my sister was like, wow. Well, and so my mom was able to have this really cool gospel-oriented discussion with my sister, who was trying to stay away from that kind of thing, and she brought it up. She was willing, and she wanted to listen. So there have been a lot of cool opportunities for me to share the gospel through family history work. And I think that from the standpoint of a missionary, it is an essential aspect of missionary work, because that's half the spirits in a spirit world. Whether they're coming or going, I'm not sure, but they're involved in our lives, and they're anxiously awaiting for those ordinances. And so I personally feel like they're going to pull some strings or try and find ways that they can involve themselves in our lives. And I think that family history work is one of the most important ways that we can allow them to contribute, or that we can feel that spirit in our lives.